A cold whisper traveled through the void of space, a broken signal jumping from satellite to satellite, like a ghost looking for someone to hear it. The audio was full of static, like a damaged memory trying to speak. In that noise, a message repeated again and again, a warning in a trembling alien voice. Do not approach, do not enter the Milky Way. The Deathworlders live there, they will survive anything. After that, only a scream, cut short as if something ended it. No blood or violence was visible, but the terror in that scream lived in the silence that followed. That signal reached the territory of the Virexian Empire, a proud alien civilization that believed no one in the universe could challenge their knowledge or power. To them, fear was something lower species felt, not them. Commander Varric stood on the main deck of his flagship, the Astral Spear, as the signal repeated in front of him. He watched with calm eyes, his four irises adjusting to the flickering hologram. It did not make sense. They had charts of many galaxies. They had seen systems full of storms, planets made of acid, stars that exploded like fireworks. Nothing scared them. And yet, this voice, this warning, it was different. It was not dramatic. It was honest. Honest fear was rare in the universe. He narrowed his eyes and looked at his officers. Some of them avoided his gaze, as if the message touched something deep in them. Varric was known for being logical and brave, or at least that's what others said. He thought himself simply curious. So he ordered his crew to analyze the signal. The room filled with quiet tension. The officers worked fast. The signal was traced to the Milky Way galaxy, a spiral of stars shining like silver dust. The Milky Way had a reputation, not for beauty, for danger. Many alien civilizations consider it cursed, a region where expeditions disappeared without explanation. Most believed it was superstition, but some believed there was a predator there, not a creature, but a species. They called them Deathworlders. Varric did not believe in legends. In his mind, nothing was unbeatable. If something was strong, science explained it. If something was dangerous, technology defeated it. But the idea of Deathworlders annoyed him. Nothing is born a monster, he said quietly. Monsters are only stories for the weak. His voice echoed in the command deck. He made a decision. He would investigate. His officers hesitated, but they obeyed. They prepared for a long journey to the Milky Way. Some crew members whispered among themselves, thinking Varric was making a mistake. They said the Milky Way changed ships, twisted minds, turned brave warriors into shadows of themselves. Others said the Deathworlders were not monsters, but survivors from the harshest world in existence. They adapted to storms of fire, poisoned forests, chaotic weather. A place so deadly that humans, the species from that world, evolved with danger as a teacher. Varric listened to none of this. He stood like a figure cut from steel, focused only on what waited in the darkness ahead. The jump to the Milky Way began with lights bending around the ship, the engines screaming like stars collapsing. When the jump ended, the universe looked different. The colors here felt heavy, thicker somehow, like the light carried stories with it. It made some crew members feel sick, others scared. It was subtle but undeniable. The sensors suddenly glitched, showing readings that broke scientific rules. Gravity pockets appeared and vanished like illusions. Space itself seemed alive. Varric ordered a scan of the nearest region and found something impossible, a human distress beacon. The signal was faint but unmistakable. Humans, the rumored Deathworlders, were here. The distress beacon came from a small planet that, according to their star maps, was supposed to be uninhabited. There should have been only dirt, rock, and silence. But now, a message repeated every few minutes. Survivors requesting assistance. Hostile environment. Do not send help unless prepared. Varric felt his heart beat faster, though he would never show it. If humans truly existed here, this could change everything. If they were weak, the myth died. If they were strong, then the universe had something new to fear. He told his crew to land. The ship approached the planet, and they saw ruins of human structures below, like a small outpost built from metal and plastic. The architecture looked rough, but practical. It was the work of people who wanted to survive, not impress. The landing ramp lowered, steam rising from the ground. The first step they took outside felt strange. The gravity was just a little heavier, enough to make breathing uncomfortable. The air tasted metallic, like storms had recently passed. The structures were scratched, as if wild creatures had attacked. No bodies, no clear sign of violence. Just abandoned equipment, dents in walls, and claw marks long enough to make the crew step back in fear. Something big had been here. Something that understood hunting. Varix moved ahead, scanning everything with calm hands. He followed the beacon signal to a small building still powered by a flickering generator. The moment he touched the door panel, it slid open and he found shapes inside. Not creatures. People. Humans. They stood in armor that looked handmade, but effective. Their helmets reflected the dim light, and their posture was fearless. It was not arrogance. It was confidence. Confidence built on survival. One of them stepped forward and removed her helmet. A woman with sharp eyes, short hair, and a face that looked like it had experienced storms and walked through them. She did not smile. She did not raise a weapon. She simply looked at Varix and said, "If you came to attack, this is your last stop." Her voice was calm, like someone who fought fear every day until it became routine. Varix felt something he never felt before. Not fear, but caution. A realization that he had underestimated something. He tried to speak, to introduce himself as Commander Varix. But before he finished, the ground shook. A sound came from the jungle beyond the outpost. A roar that did not sound like an animal. It sounded like hunger wearing the shape of a scream. The humans did not panic. They moved into formation like they had practiced it thousands of times. The aliens, however, froze for a moment. Even Varix felt his throat tighten. Captain Mira Hayes, the human, looked at Varix. "Welcome to a death world," she said softly. "If you want to live, stay close." Her words were not a threat. They were a truth. Varix finally understood something. Humans did not survive despite the universe. They survived because they adapted to it. They learned from danger instead of running from it. Legends called them Deathworlders not because they wanted to kill, but because they refused to die. In that moment, Varix realized the universe might not fear humans because they were powerful. The universe feared humans because they were impossible. The roar came again, closer this time, shaking dust from the ceiling. The humans moved as one, checking weapons, scanning the perimeter. Their eyes did not show panic, only calculation. The kind of calm that comes from fighting things far worse than legends. Varix looked at his crew. Some trembled, some whispered prayers. Varix took a slow breath, and for the first time, he wondered if the scream in that first signal was not the scariest part. Maybe the scariest part was what made the Deathworlders so unbreakable. As the noise grew, Mira looked at Varix one more time. "This galaxy thinks we are the danger," she said. "Maybe they're right, but only to the ones who try to hurt us." The building trembled again, and the lights flickered. Varix did not know what was coming, but he knew this was not the end of the mystery. It was only the beginning. The universe was bigger and more complicated than he ever imagined. And humans were the unanswered question at its core. A question that terrified Stars. He did not know who would survive what came next, but he knew one thing now. If Deathworlders were real, then everything would change, because the universe had no idea what humans were truly capable of. Commander Varix did not know what strange destiny had pulled him into this place, but every second on this planet was teaching him something new. The ruins of the human outpost looked like broken memories scattered under a dying sky. The clouds rolled heavy, as if storms were waiting for the right moment to fall. The air hummed with quiet tension. Something was moving out there, something big enough to make the ground whisper with vibrations. Varix and his crew stood close to the humans, unsure they were allies, enemies, or something in between. Every instinct told them to run back to their ship. Every commander's pride told them to stay. The humans stood like stone, calm, focused, ready. Their armor was different from what Varix expected. It was not perfect. It was scratched, dented, repaired by hand many times. But that only made it more terrifying. It meant they survived enough battles to wear down their own armor. They did not change it. They simply fixed it and continued. It was like looking at a history book written in metal. Scars that told stories no one else lived long enough to tell. Captain Mirahe spoke again, her voice sharp as falling metal. Form up. Unknown threat approaching. Do not panic. She did not shout. She did not raise her voice. But everyone listened. Even the aliens, whose minds were full of questions, obeyed without thinking. Varix wondered how someone could hold authority so easily without force. It was not fear that made others listen. It was respect. She carried respect like armor. The alien crew tried to adjust their weapons, but their hands trembled. One of them, an officer named Reelan, whispered to Varix that maybe they should retreat. Varix did not reply. For the first time, he felt doubt, not fear. Doubt. It was heavier. It made every step feel like walking into shadows. Before he could decide anything, the jungle at the edge of the outpost split apart with a cracking sound. Trees snapped like twigs. Something enormous was coming. Mira motioned to her team. They moved, not like soldiers, but like predators preparing to counterattack. Smooth, efficient, silent. They positioned themselves behind broken walls, metal crates, rusted vehicles. It looked like chaos, but it was clear they knew exactly what each person needed to do. Varix realized something. Humans did not train to be perfect. They trained to survive. There was a difference. Perfection broke when the world changed the rules. Survival adapted. A low growl rolled across the ground. Varix felt it in his bones. His crew stepped back. Their expressions collapsed into fear. Then, from the broken trees, the creature arrived. Its shape was massive, like a walking shadow with limbs too long and claws that looked like they were carved from the planet's anger. Its eyes burned like embers from a dead star, and it moved with horrible confidence, like it knew nothing on this planet could kill it. The creature's skin shimmered, like it was part of the darkness itself. Before Varix could react, Mira signaled. Her team responded instantly. 3 humans fired compact energy weapons, not to kill, but to distract. They aimed at the ground around the creature, driving it off balance, forcing it to step where they wanted. Another human threw a device that crackled with static, forming a barrier of light that slowed the monster's charge. They did not scream. They did not pray. They did not freeze. They moved like this was normal, like this was just another day. Varix realized the stories he heard about humans were wrong. They were not dangerous because they were aggressive. They were dangerous because the universe had shaped them like this. They did not break. They bent. They adapted. They learned. Every second, they were learning. Even now, Varix could see Myra's eyes studying the monster, tracking its movements, adjusting strategy. The creature roared again, but this time the sound was different. Angrier. Confused. It had expected prey. It found predators instead. Mira turned to Varix just for a moment. Stay behind us. You are not ready for this. Her words burned his pride. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say he was a commander, a warrior, a leader of an empire. But before he could speak, the creature lunged toward his crew. Varix watched as his officers tried to fire their weapons, but their shots went wild. Fear was controlling them more than training. One human stepped between the creature and the aliens, shield raised. The impact threw dust into the air. The shield cracked. The human did not fall. They slid back, boots digging trenches in the dirt, and drew a blade from their side. Not an energy weapon. A blade of solid metal, sharpened over and over. They slashed across the creature's leg. It screamed, backing away surprised. Varix's mind shattered at the sight. Why would anyone bring a metal blade to a battlefield where guns existed? Then he understood. Guns failed. Technology failed. But a blade worked when the universe refused to cooperate. Humans did not trust the universe to make sense. They prepared for nonsense. The creature retreated for a moment, circling, trying to find a weak spot. The humans adjusted instantly. They changed formation, covered angles, positioned footholds. They moved like water flowing around rocks. No order was spoken. They simply reacted. Varix's crew watched in disbelief. Some stepped closer to humans, as if their presence alone could offer protection. Varix felt anger and humility mixing, like poison in his chest. He wanted to help. He wanted to prove his species was not weak. So he stepped forward, weapon raised. Mira grabbed his arm, stopping him. "You fire, you die," she said. It was not an insult. It was data. She had already calculated his mistake before he could make it. Varix lowered his weapon. For the first time, he obeyed someone without giving a command. When the creature lunged again, the humans used the environment. One led it toward a broken fuel tank. Another shot the tank, releasing gas that ignited in a controlled burst. The explosion was small, just enough to stun the creature. Then 3 humans rushed in together, firing at weak points Mira identified with rapid hand signals. The creature howled, thrashing, but it was slowing down, losing momentum, losing confidence. The hunters were becoming the hunted. Varix watched a human jump onto a piece of fallen wall, use the angle to leap higher, land on the monster's back, and attach a device to its spine. The creature spasmed, falling like a dying storm. The device blinked red and released an electric pulse. The creature dropped to the ground, unconscious but alive. The humans did not kill it. They just stopped it. Control, not destruction. Silence fell like snow. For a long moment, no one spoke. The wind brushed through the wreckage, moving dust in small waves. Mira finally exhaled and lowered her weapon. Her teammates did the same. Varix felt like the universe had tilted. Everything he believed about strength felt childish now. He turned to Mira, his voice low. How did your species survive this world?" Mira looked at him, her eyes tired but bright. "We didn't have a choice. Our home made us strong. Our history made us smart. Our losses made us careful." She wiped dirt from her armor. "We didn't evolve to dominate. We evolved to not die. There's a difference." Varix nodded slowly. He understood. Or, at least, he was beginning to. Humans were not legends. They were lessons written in blood and perseverance. Their danger came from experience, not instinct. They were not the apex predator of the galaxy because they were born powerful. They became powerful because every day of their history tried to kill them and failed. The captured creature twitched on the ground. 2 humans approached to secure it. Varix expected fear or caution. Instead, one of them spoke to the creature softly, almost gently. "Easy. We're not here to hurt you more. Stay calm." They treated it like a misunderstood animal, not a threat. The alien crew stared, confused. Why show kindness to something that tried to kill them? Mira answered without being asked. "Everything fights to live. We respect that, even when it tries to kill us." Varix felt something shift inside him. The universe was not divided into heroes and monsters. It was full of survivors. Some wore claws. Some wore armor. Some wore fear like skin. Humans wore resilience. Varix's ship sent a message through his communicator. His second officer reported detecting a larger signal approaching the planet. Not human. Something else. Something powerful. Varix's crew panicked again, but Mira remained calm. She asked to see the data. When she saw it, her jaw tightened. She recognized the signal. It was an enemy she thought she escaped long ago. The galaxy, it seemed, was catching up. Varix felt the world tilt under his feet as the sky cracked open like broken glass. The air shimmered with unnatural light, and a shadowy shape descended from the clouds. It moved like a storm wearing armor, lightning clinging to its hull. The alien ship was enormous, shaped like a dagger pointed down at the planet, ready to pierce it. Even from a distance, Varix felt its presence like pressure on his chest. His crew whispered the name of the enemy in fear, a name that tasted bitter in their mouths. The Krail Dominion. Mira Hayes did not flinch. She watched the descending ship with narrowed eyes, like someone analyzing a puzzle rather than witnessing doom. Her jaw tightened, and her voice dropped to a low murmur. "They followed us. They always follow." She turned toward her team, the entire human crew snapping to attention instantly. No panic, no hesitation. Prepare defensive positions. We hold until extraction. No heroics. Stay alive. Even in the face of a nightmare, She spoke like she was giving normal orders during a regular training drill. Varric stared at her, confused. "You know them?" he asked, his voice uneven. Mira nodded. "They hunt worlds. They kill civilizations. They don't negotiate." She paused and looked directly at him. "They are what the galaxy fears. Not us." That sentence hit Varric like cold water. The galaxy feared humans as Deathworlders, survivors born from chaos. But if these Krail were worse, then maybe humans were not the threat. Maybe humans were the shield. Lightning struck the ground near the outpost as smaller Krail crafts broke off from the main ship, screaming through the air like metal predators. They landed with force, kicking dust into spirals. The creatures that stepped out were tall and armored, shaped like nightmares carved from stone and bone. Their armor fused to their skin, creating a grotesque mosaic of machine and flesh, but nothing graphic, nothing spilling. Just wrong. Unnatural. They had no eyes, only black glass lenses that glowed with cold light. Their movements were stiff but powerful, like puppets controlled by something smarter. Varric's crew raised their weapons, but their hands trembled. The Krail marched in formation, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. The air around them felt heavy, like gravity itself was afraid. Myra's voice cut through the fear. "Do not break formation. We control this ground. Not them." The humans adjusted their stance, their armor clicking softly. Varric saw something in them he had not seen before, readiness that went beyond training. It was instinct sharpened into discipline. The Krail leader stepped forward, its armor pulsing with strange symbols. It spoke in a voice like broken metal grinding against itself. "Surrender the Deathworlders. All others may live." The words echoed like a threat that already tasted victory. Varric expected Mira to negotiate. Instead, she laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You tried that last time. Didn't work then. Won't work now." The Krail leader tilted its head, confused. The moment lasted only a second. Then chaos erupted. The Krail fired a beam of dark energy that tore through the air, dissolving a section of wall like sand. Mira dealt aside, her team moving with her as if they shared one mind. The humans returned fire, their shots precise, aimed not to kill but to disable joints, damage weapons, slow the enemy. They were not trying to win the battle in one strike. They were breaking the enemy piece by piece. Varric watched, stunned, as one human rolled under a blast, sliding across dirt to reposition. Another used a broken metal panel as a reflector, bouncing energy beams into a Krail soldier's armor, disrupting its power core. Mira vaulted over a crate, landing with a thud that shook the ground, firing 3 shots into Krail leader's chest. The armor sparked, but the creature did not fall. It only staggered, its glass lenses burning brighter. Varric wanted to help. His instincts screamed to fight, but his training collapsed under the sheer unpredictability of the battle. His crew fired blindly, missing more shots than they landed. The Krail advanced toward them. One raised its weapon, and Varric swore he felt death staring at him. Then Myra's voice cut through the noise. "Varric, down!" He dropped without thinking. A beam of human plasma fire streaked over him, hitting the Krail soldier square in the head. Sparks flew, and the creature fell, collapsing like a puppet with its strings cut. Varric gasped for breath, his heart racing. Mira did not even look at him. She was already moving again. This was not normal combat. This was survival sculpted into an art form. Every shot, every breath, every footstep was placed with purpose. Where Varric's people fought like soldiers, the humans fought like storms. Varric crawled to cover and forced himself to breathe. He needed to understand. He needed to see what made humans different. His eyes scanned the battlefield, and he realized something. Humans learned with every moment. When the Krail moved faster, humans adjusted their aim to lead the target. When a Krail soldier tried flanking, humans counterflanked without waiting for orders. When the Krail changed weapon frequency, humans listened, adapted their armor settings, and changed tactics. It was like watching evolution happen in real time. Varric stepped out of cover and threw the grenade at the Krail leader. It hit the armor, stuck like a magnet, and detonated with a burst of white light. The creature convulsed, its armor glitching, lights blinking. Mira rushed forward and struck the weak point with a final blast from her weapon. The leader collapsed, disabled but alive. The other Krail froze, their formation disrupted. The battlefield fell silent. Varix could hear his heartbeat echoing in his ears. He could hear the wind pushing dust across the ruins. He could hear his entire understanding of a universe shifting inside his skull. Mira approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did good," she said, her tone surprising him. Genuine, not patronizing. He struggled to speak. How do you live like this? How do you wake up knowing this is out there?" Myra's expression softened, just a little. "We don't. We wake up ready to face whatever is out there. That's the difference." Before Varix could respond, a new sound filled the air, one that was not from the Krail ship. His communicator buzzed. His second officer shouted through static, "Commander, incoming! More Krail ships, 10, maybe more." Varix felt panic claw at his spine. 10 ships would mean thousands of Krail soldiers. No defense. No escape. Certain extinction. Mira looked up at the sky. "Then we don't fight here," she said. She whistled sharply. From behind the ruins, something moved. A hidden panel in the ground opened, revealing a tunnel sloping down into darkness. This outpost was not just for research. We built something here. A way out. Varix stared into the tunnel. The air that escaped from it felt cold, ancient. He did not know what lay beneath. Only that humans had planned for this. Planned for being hunted. Planned for surviving anyway. Mira motioned for everyone to follow. Her people moved without question. Varix hesitated. His pride screamed at him. He was a commander. Retreat felt like failure. Surrender. Mira spoke quietly, her voice reaching him through his thoughts. "This is not surrender. This is repositioning. You can't fight a storm by standing still in the open." Varix looked at her, then at the sky, then back at the tunnel. He stepped forward. His crew followed, some limping, some crying quietly, but they followed. The tunnel felt endless, like a throat leading into the heart of the planet. Varix walked with heavy steps, the weight of what he had witnessed pressing inside him like gravity. The walls hummed with old generators, and flickering lights guided them downward. The humans moved like they knew every inch of the underground paths. They had built this place not for comfort, but for survival. No polished metal or advanced aesthetic. Everything here was practical. Wires exposed, rusted panels, repaired with whatever parts they could find. It was ugly in a way that demanded respect, because it existed for one purpose: to keep them alive. The air smelled of earth and metal, like a graveyard for machines. Varix could feel the fear of his crew brushing against him like cold wind. They whispered prayers to their stars, promises to return home. Varix did not pray. His mind was too full of questions to make space for hope. He wanted to understand. He needed to understand. Mira Hayes walked ahead, leading the group. Her steps were silent, but every movement carried intention. She stopped at a sealed blast door, placed her palm against the panel, and the door slid open with a sigh. Inside was a chamber larger than anything Varix expected, a hidden facility carved under the planet's crust. Screens glowed on the walls, showing maps of the surface, atmospheric readings, seismic activity, and distant space signatures. At the center of the room stood a circular platform containing something Varix recognized and feared instantly: a space-folding engine. Not just any engine. A prototype humans should not have had. Something that could bend distance if powered correctly. His empire had tried to build such a thing and failed. Humans had one here, one built from scrap and abandoned parts. "How did you?" Varix started, but Mira raised a hand to stop him. "We built this because we had to," she said softly. "The Krail chased us for years. We lost worlds, friends, families. This," she nodded toward the engine, "this is how we stay ahead. We move when they find us. We disappear before they can break us." Varix stepped closer to the device, awe and dread twisting inside his mind. It wasn't beautiful like Virexian technology. It was patchwork, uneven, almost unstable. But it worked. Somehow, impossibly, it worked. Humanity's strength was not in perfection. It was in refusal. They refused to stop. They refused to give up. They refused to die. A rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Krail were landing above, drilling into the surface, breaking into the tunnels. Time was running out. Mira looked at her team. Positions. Prepare for breach. The humans rallied, spreading through the chamber. Some took defensive stances behind crates. Others readied weapons and shields. 2 technicians connected cables to the engine, powering it up. The lights brightened, humming with unstable energy. Varix's crew didn't know what to do. They moved like ghosts, lost in their own fear. One of them approached Varix, shaking. "Commander, we can't win this. We should surrender." Varix stared at him, the memory of Myra's words echoing in his mind. Survival is not surrender. Survival is repositioning. He placed a hand on the soldier's shoulder. "We won't surrender. Not while there's a path forward." He surprised himself. His voice sounded like steel. He felt the shape of a new version of himself forming. The ground trembled again as the Krail breached the first tunnel gate. Mira shouted orders. A barricade sealed one corridor. Explosives dropped into another. Humans fought like they had done this 1,000 times. Varix watched their discipline and felt something grow inside him, something foreign but powerful. Respect. A panel on the wall cracked open. Krail drones poured in, their bodies shaped like twisted insects, crawling like nightmares. They screeched, firing bolts of dark energy that scorched walls. Humans responded instantly. They didn't shoot straight at the drones. They shot the ceiling above them, collapsing debris to trap the swarm. Dust filled the chamber. The humans kicked through the smoke, advancing like shadows shaped from courage. Varix raised his weapon and fired. The blast hit a drone, sending it skidding into a wall. A surge of adrenaline hit him like fire. He fired again. This time, he aimed where he predicted the drone would move. It fell. Varix felt something terrifying. He felt alive. The Krail were pushing forward, pressing into the chamber. Mira signaled to Varix. "With me." He joined her without hesitation. They moved toward the central platform. Krail soldiers descended from a ceiling breach, their armored forms glowing like corrupted constellations. Mira grabbed a rifle, tossed another to Varix, and they fired together. She shot to disable. He shot to distract. They were opposites. She was precision, he was chaos. But their goals aligned. In that moment, Varix realized something. The myths about humans were wrong. They were not monsters. They did not kill because they enjoyed it. They killed because they had to. They were protectors shaped by impossible pressure. A Krail soldier leaped from above, its weapon pointed at Varix. Mira grabbed his arm, yanking him aside. The blast hit the ground where he had stood. She fired back, hitting the creature's weapon core, causing it to detonate in its hands. The explosion knocked 3 Krail back. Varix caught himself, breathing hard. Mira smirked faintly. "You're learning." Varix felt heat in his chest, like the ember of something new. "I had a good teacher." Another breach shook the air. The Krail leader from before dragged itself in, armor sparking from the EMP damage. It roared, its voice glitching like broken radio signals. It charged. Mira didn't move. She studied it, measured it, understood it. Then she spoke. "Varix, remember what I taught you. Fear is not the enemy. Stillness is." Varix's mind clicked into clarity. He saw the creature move. He saw its rhythm, its weight, its weakness. He fired. Not at the chest, not the head, but at the joints that controlled its balance. The creature stumbled. Mira rushed forward, sliding under its arm, planting a device on its back. She rolled away. "Shoot it!" she shouted. Varix didn't think. He fired. The device discharged a shock wave, sending the Krail leader crashing to the floor. Not dead, disabled. The humans didn't need trophies. They needed time. Mira turned to the technicians. "Engine status." 60%, one shouted. "We need 2 more minutes." They did not have 2 minutes. The chamber doors burst open again. More Krail soldiers poured in like a flood. Varix's crew finally found their voices. "Commander, what do we do?" Varix looked at Mira. Mira nodded once. He stepped forward, raising his weapon, and shouted, "Hold the line!" It was the first order he had given that felt like leadership instead of authority. His crew stood straighter. Their weapons rose. They fired, not wildly, but with purpose. The humans and aliens fought together. They held the room like a fortress built of desperation and will. A Krail beam struck Varix's shoulder, sending pain through him, but he stayed upright. Mira covered him, driving the Krail back. The engine roared as its energy spiked. A portal of swirling light opened above the platform, bending reality like a curtain pulled from a stage. The escape route was ready. Myra's team formed a defensive perimeter around the platform. "Everyone in," she ordered. Varix's crew ran first, stumbling onto the platform. The chamber began to collapse around them. Mira pushed Varix toward the portal. "Go!" Varix hesitated. "You're right behind me?" Mira smiled, eyes blazing with something brighter than fear. "Deathworlders don't go last. We go through." A Krail lunged at her. Varix grabbed her hand and dragged her with him. They leaped together, falling into the swirling vortex as the world behind them shattered in fire and stone. For a moment, there was nothing, just light and sound stretching into infinity. Then silence. Varix opened his eyes. He was standing on the deck of a space station orbiting a distant star. Human and alien refugees filled the room. They stared at him with fear and hope. Mira stepped beside him, dusting off her armor. She looked at the stars through the window. The space station floated like a wounded animal in the void, lights flickering across its surface, like stars trying to shine through smoke. Varix stood at one of the reinforced windows, staring out at the stars beyond. From here, the galaxy looked peaceful, beautiful, even, but he knew the truth now. Peace was an illusion built on the bones of those who never survived to warn others. The Milky Way was not a place of harmony. It was a crucible. The strong were not born here. They were forged. Humans were forged. Mira stood beside him, arms crossed, armor dented but functional. She stared straight ahead, her reflection in the glass sharp and focused. Behind them, the station was alive with movement. Refugees, engineers, medics, soldiers. Some were human, some alien. All of them carried the same expression, exhaustion mixed with determination. The kind of look people wore after running from nightmares only to turn back and decide to fight them. Varix watched as a group of human engineers worked on a map projected in the air, marking routes, strategic points, hidden systems where the Krail had been seen. He heard their voices overlapping. Warnings, plans, calculations. The station smelled like oil, metal, sweat, and survival. It was nothing like his Empire's ships, which smelled like polished steel and sterile air. This place smelled alive, raw, real. Mira pointed at the map. This is where they're gathering. Their main fleet. They think we're dead. They think we're running. Varix looked at the blinking red symbol, the Krail stronghold. Even the hologram seemed to pulse like a threat. "We can't strike that," he said. "It's suicide." Mira nodded. "Exactly. That's why we're not striking it. We're stealing from it." Varix blinked, confused. "Stealing what? A weapon? Technology?" Mira turned to him. "Information. Knowledge. Every Krail invasion starts with a pattern. They leave traces, weak points in their command. They're not perfect. Nothing is. We just have to survive long enough to see the cracks." This was the first time Varix understood that humans did win fights by overwhelming force. They won by breaking patterns, by forcing the universe to play by rules they were constantly rewriting. A low alarm buzzed through the room. Not danger yet, just a reminder. Varix noticed something then. The humans didn't flinch. They didn't look up. They had learned to sort alarms by tone, by frequency, by experience. They could smell danger like animals evolved for war. Mira motioned him to follow. They walked through the station. The corridors were narrow, patched with mismatched plates, the floor marked with numbers in faded paint. Children peered from rooms, eyes wide but unbroken. A human boy saluted Mira as she passed. She ruffled his hair and kept moving. Varix felt a strange warm bloom inside his chest. These people didn't crumble because of fear. They grew stronger because of it. In a large chamber deeper in the station, hundreds of people gathered, humans and aliens alike. The air was thick with murmurs. They formed a half circle around a table where maps and weapons lay scattered like pieces of the future, waiting to be claimed. Mira stepped forward. Varix followed, uncertain but willing. A human man with graying hair and a missing eye nodded at Mira. Captain Hayes, I heard you brought survivors. And a commander. Mira introduced Varix. The man studied him for a long moment before nodding. If he's with you, he's with us. Just like that. Trust given with conditions, but no hesitation. Varix lowered his gaze. He didn't know if he deserved that trust yet, but he would try. Mira began briefing the room. She explained their escape, the Krail's pursuit, the destruction of the outpost, and the coordinates of the enemy's stronghold. Her voice carried like a blade cutting through fog. She didn't inspire with big promises. She inspired with facts. Reality. The truth was her weapon. When she finished, silence followed. Heavy, thick, like everyone was holding their breath at the edge of a cliff, wondering if they would jump or fall. Then someone stepped forward. A young alien soldier, scales shimmering under the lights. She bowed her head. I will go with you. My world fell to the Krail. If humans fight them, I will fight beside humans. Another voice. My colony has no military. If the Krail come again, we'll die. I will fight. Varix felt something shift. This was an army built on orders. It was built on will. Every person here chose to fight, chose to stand, chose to be more than what fear allowed. Mira nodded at them. Good. But listen carefully. This isn't a suicide mission. We don't win by dying. We win by outliving them. Varix felt her words settle into his bones. The galaxy didn't belong to the strongest. It belonged to those who refused to fall first. Later, Mira showed Varix the ship they would take. It was called the Wayfarer. The hull was old, patched with metal from 6 different origins. Engines hummed like they weren't happy, but they would run anyway because the humans needed them to. The ship felt like a survivor. Mira smoothed a hand over the hull, like greeting an old friend. This ship got us through the siege of Cardis, she said. Through the Nebula Maze. Through the Krail blockade at Riven Gate. She'll get us through this too. Varix whispered. How are you so sure? Mira shrugged lightly. She's still here, isn't she? They boarded. The crew took positions. Mira sat in the captain's seat. Varix stood beside her. Outside the window, stars drifted past like falling sparks. As they launched, Varix noticed something. Humans didn't say goodbye. They said, see you when we get back. Because they didn't plan for endings. They planned for returns. The journey to the Krail stronghold took them through a nebula where magnetic storms scratched the ship like claws of invisible creatures. Mira instructed the helm to use the energy currents, surfing them instead of resisting. The ship shook but held. Varix learned that humans didn't fight the universe for control. They negotiated with it. Near the stronghold, space felt wrong. Cold, silent, like a graveyard waiting to be filled. The Krail fleet hovered around a massive structure, part citadel, part station. Dark towers rose from its surface like the ribs of a dead titan. Signals pulsed from it like heartbeats, coordinated and rhythmic. Mira dimmed the lights. Stealth mode. Scan for entry points. Varix watched as human technicians searched for weaknesses. They found an old maintenance tunnel, barely wide enough for a shuttle. Dangerous. Unstable. A trap. Mira smiled. Perfect. Varix stared. Why is a trap perfect? Because they won't expect us to walk right into it, she said. Traps are built for people who are afraid. We're not afraid. We're angry. They entered the tunnel. The walls scraped the ship's hull. Sparks danced. For a moment, Varix believed they would get stuck. Then the tunnel opened into a cavernous hangar filled with Krail drones. Quiet. Too quiet. Mira signaled. No weapons yet. Move like you belong. They walked down the ramp, surrounded by machines waiting like statues. One human hacked into a terminal, overriding systems. Lights flickered, then turned blue. They were in. Moving through the corridors felt like walking through the inside of a predator. The walls pulsed faintly. The floor vibrated. Varix felt watched. He expected Krail soldiers at every corner. Instead, nothing. The silence was heavier than battle. They reached the command nexus. Inside, data streams floated like rivers of light, information flowing in patterns. Mira approached the console. This is it. Their invasion plans. Their next targets. Their supply routes. Their weak links. Varix watched data download. Worlds were listed. Some he knew. Some belonged to species he had never heard of. None deserved destruction. A sound echoed. Metallic. Rhythmical. Footsteps. Krail soldiers approached from 3 corridors, armor glowing with hungry light. Mira signaled her team to circle up. Varix's heart pounded. The Krail stopped, forming a wall of silent death. The galaxy outside the viewport stretched in streaks of silver and blue, the colors of hyperspace bending around the Wayfarer like a ribbon of storms frozen in motion. Varix watched it in silence. Every jump felt different now. Before meeting humans, hyperspace had been routine to him. Mathematics, engines, direction. Now it felt like a battlefield of its own, a place where possibilities twisted like fire. He felt his heart beat in sync with the ship, as if he had grown roots into the metal. The crew moved with new purpose. Humans and aliens worked side by side, not as strangers forced together, but as allies sealed by fire. The mission at the Krail stronghold had changed something in all of them. They had not destroyed the enemy, but they had cracked them. They stole information, left sabotage behind, bought time. And time was the deadliest weapon in the universe, if used correctly. Mira Hayes stood at the center of the bridge, reading a hologram of the fleet layouts. She looked tired, but her eyes were brighter than before. A spark lived there that Varix recognized only now. Belief, not confidence. Confidence was personal. Belief was contagious. Her belief spread like a silent wildfire across everyone near her. Varix approached. "What now?" he asked. The question felt like a doorway. Mira tapped the hologram. "We hit them where it hurts. Not with guns. With strategy." The map rotated, showing dozens of worlds, colonies, stations, mining fields, refugee havens. Lines connected them like veins. The Krail control these territories. They drain resources. They take prisoners. They build warships using the fear they spread as a shield. Varix traced one line to a world named Helion. He remembered it. A peaceful planet of tall forests and shimmering lakes. "They took this sector last year," he said quietly. "My empire tried to stop them. We failed." Mira nodded. "We don't need to take it back. Not yet. We need to break their rhythm." She looked up. "You break a predator's rhythm. You break its hunt." Those words carved into Varix's mind. He imagined the galaxy as a savanna, and the Krail as apex hunters. Humans weren't challengers. They were the drought, the wildfire, the unexpected change that predators could not adapt to in time. The ship dropped out of hyperspace above a system Varix did not recognize. The star burned red, swollen like it was sick, and 3 moons orbited a small planet. The planet's surface was covered in ice and dust, lifeless at first glance. But as they approached, Varix saw structures under the ice. Buildings, hangars, factories, a hidden base. "This is Haven 6, Mira said. "Our alliance is Deep Forge. We don't bring many here. You'll see why." When they landed, the airlock opened to an underground cavern lit by glowing tubes embedded in the walls. The temperature was cold enough to sting, but humans walked comfortably. They adapted even to the weather like it was just another opponent. Mira led Varix down a corridor where machines worked day and night. Giant arms lifted metal plates. Welders sparked. Plasma torches carved shapes from stone. Ships were being built here. Not large cruisers like the Virexian Empire favored. Something smaller, faster, sharper. Varix stopped at one vessel, shaped like a dagger with wings. "What is this?" Mira smiled. "These are strikers. Hit-and-run ships. Strike one artery. Disappear before the body reacts." She placed a hand on the hull. "A big fleet is a hammer. We're not hammers. were lightning. Varix ran his fingers over the metal. It vibrated softly like a heartbeat. You want to train us to use these. Mira corrected him gently. No, we want to learn together. Our way isn't the only way. Your people know discipline, formation, logistics. We need that. She looked around. Humans adapt. But to win, adaptation needs direction. Something inside Varix loosened. Fear, pride, something like armor cracked, creating space for growth. Then let's learn. They trained, not for days, for weeks. The Wayfarer crew became instructors, their methods brutal in their simplicity. They didn't teach techniques first. They taught instincts. The first lesson, measure the enemy, not the battlefield. Humans believed the battlefield lied, but enemies always told the truth through movement. Varix learned to watch for patterns. A soldier who favored their right side. A pilot whose ship drifted half a second before firing. A commander who always engaged from high orbit. Every habit, every reflex, every choice, they were doorways to victory. The second lesson, fear is a language. Humans did not try to kill fear. They listened to it. If fear whispered, left, they looked left. If fear screamed, run, they changed direction. Fear was not an enemy. Fear was data. Varix felt his understanding reshaped. In his empire, fear meant punishment. Here, fear meant survival. That difference felt like a new planet in his mind. During one training session, Mira stood behind Varix as he piloted a striker through a simulation. Enemy drones surrounded him, firing beams that traced deadly circles. He flew erratically, trying to dodge. The alarms blared. You're surviving, Mira said, but you're not winning. Stop reacting. Start predicting. How? Varix growled, sweat on his hands. Think like them. If you were the enemy, where would you aim next? Something clicked. Varix turned hard right. Fired before he could confirm a target. The drone exploded. He accelerated, twisting through debris, destroying two more. Myra's smile was small, but real. Welcome to the future. When the simulation ended, Varix sat back, chest heaving. He had never felt so tired, or so alive. The third lesson was quieter. It came from a child. Varix saw her one day in the hangar, sitting on a crate, drawing stars on a broken piece of metal. He approached, curious. What are you making? A map, she said simply. Of what? The places we'll save. Varix stared. How do you know we'll save them? She looked up with eyes older than her years. Because you're here. Those words lodged in Varix's heart like a seed of fire. He walked away trembling, realizing that the battle was not only for worlds. It was for futures. The alliance grew. More species arrived. Not many, but enough. Those who had once feared humans now stood with them. Word spread through back channels, through rogue traders, through rebel signals. The Deathworlders are fighting back. They have allies. Join them. The Krail noticed. Their attacks grew frantic, less coordinated, their rhythm breaking. And then came the moment that would define everything. A broadcast cut through every channel in Allied space. A Krail warlord appeared on screen, armor dripping with energy. Its voice rattled the air. Deathworlders, you crawl into shadows. You teach insects to resist. The galaxy belonged to us before humans were born. It will belong to us after your bones turn to dust. Surrender your leaders. Stand down, or watch everything burn. The broadcast ended. Silence swallowed the station. People looked to Mira. She stepped forward. No speech prepared. No theatrics. Just her voice. You say the galaxy belongs to you, but it belongs to those who fight for it. We don't kneel. We don't break. We don't surrender. If you want this galaxy, she leaned closer to the camera. Come and bleed for it. Varix felt the room shift. Fear didn't vanish. It transformed into resolve. The Alliance would strike first. The target was not the Krail stronghold this time. It was their forward command fleet, an armada that served as the spear tip of every invasion. If they broke that fleet, the Krail war machine would stagger. They launched. The Allied fleet, small, uneven, mismatched, jumped into Krail territory like sparks thrown into a storm. The stars lit up with warnings. Krail ships moved to intercept. Varric sat in the cockpit of a striker. Myra's voice echoed in his headset. Remember, we don't win by overpowering them. We win by outthinking them. Break their pattern. The first shots fired. Krail beams cut through space like scythes. But the strikers did not engage directly. They vanished into fields of space debris, forcing the Krail to chase. They struck from behind, disappeared, reappeared near engines, fired again. Krail cruisers turned in confusion, losing formation.